All right, so we are looking to simplify this one. So let's give ourselves a little bit more space. But once again, let's just focus on the numerator first. So I'm going to just kind of get rid of that denominator so I don't have to even think about it. And if I saw this numerator, what I would notice is that each of the fractions, well, that's three different fractions. What I'd like to do is make it one individual fraction, right, like this. But what I also notice is that the one that's given is not being shown as a fraction. It may be useful to see it as a fraction like this, 1 over 1, because now I can see that it's missing, I look at my x's, right? I've got more x's here than anywhere else, which means this x is also missing another x. Okay, so I'd have to multiply it by x. I'm not going to write that as x squared, but you need to know that it is. Okay, but if I do it to the denominator, I got to do it to the numerator. Same with 1 over 1, it's missing both x's, so I'm just going to show, I will show that one as x squared, but if I do it to the denominator, I got to do it to the numerator. So my common denominator then is just x squared, but that allows me then to combine all of the numerators, which is, I'm just going to show it as x squared plus 15x plus 56. Okay? And I would probably even look now at this point to factor out the numerator, because it can be. Of course, that's not going to affect the denominator of x squared. But I would look for two factors of 56 that add up to 15, and I get 7 and 8. Okay, so it now factors, because the leading coefficient of the x is a 1, phantom 1. It's just going to give us two binomials with the x's. Of course, we had it as positive 7 and positive 8. Okay, so that's about as much as I can do with that numerator. Now it's time to look at that denominator. And if you need to cover up the numerators, do that, okay? Let's get rid of that garbage. So in my denominator, I've got x plus x over 8. Again, it may be helpful to see that first x as x over 1, so you don't make any mistakes there. But at this point, I see that the first term is missing an x. So I've got to multiply the 1 by x. I'm just talking about the denominator, and so I will have to apply it to the numerator as well. So what does this do for me? Well, it means that I now have a common denominator of x from the denominator. And now I've got in the numerator x squared, and then I've got that positive 8. Now this almost looks like a difference of squares, but 8's not a perfect square. And that's well, I can't think of any other way to simplify that. Okay, so I'm just going to tack it on to the next fraction. But at this point now, I'm going to rewrite this, but as a division problem, okay? So I'm going to take my numerator, which is kind of slanted there, that's okay, and I will divide it by the denominator. And now that we have it like this, I'm going to change the operation to multiplication. So the first fraction will stay the same, but this allows me to change the denominator, divide, not the denominator, the divide sign into multiplication, and then I've got to flip this fraction. Okay, so now it's x over x squared plus 8. So the only thing I can see at this point, even in terms of factoring, is this x squared right here. Let me rewrite that. I'm going to rewrite it as x times x. And the reason that is because I have that red x in the numerator, and I can take that red x and pair it with one of the x's in the denominator. Essentially, that becomes a phantom 1. So again, I don't see anything else that can be simplified at this point. So I guess I can, but I will take the whole fraction and just kind of make it one full fraction. So let's take that numerator. That's all that's left from the numerator, those two binomials. And then in the denominator, I have an x and also an x squared plus 8. Now you could distribute the x there into the parentheses, but I don't see a need for it. And I believe that this is okay. This is a good way to leave that problem. So I'm going to clarify this. I think the problems on the assignment, like this would be a 1 right there. But if it was, you would have just had an x plus 8 right here, which then would have been, it would have been able to, at this point, this would have been an x plus 8. And then you would have also made. This is a Phantom 1. You would have been left with something like that, but that's not the way this one played out. But do expect to see something like that on the assignment.